So what I had asked you to do last night was the second half of the questions, which was on pages 22 through 24. This, I will say, is a good representation of what the test is going to look like tomorrow. This is a little mini version, but a lot of these questions are very appropriate for what you need to know for tomorrow's test. So can I just ask someone, do you guys mind, question 28? The mid-latitude climates, what does their temperature go from and to? Do we know? Yeah, Colton? Yes. So how we did this, the mid-latitude climate belts, here's one, and here's one. They're designated by their isotherms. So here's an isotherm, there's an isotherm, and another, and another. And these are the 10 degrees Celsius and the 18 degrees Celsius, and same down here, 10 and 18 degrees Celsius. So those are where those climate belts will be found between those temperatures. So describe the specific characteristic of isolation or insulation. Sorry, received in the tropical climate region that caused the monthly temperatures to remain warm all year. What do we know about the sun and insulation that made these tropical climates warm all year? No, I'm really asking you. What about it? Yeah, I know, I'm asking why. What about the insulation that makes it hot there all year? When the question asks a character of insulation, make sure you answer it about a character of insulation. Just telling me it's closer to the equator, we know that. We can see that on the map. Why is the equator hotter is what this is asking. What about it? Okay, that would work, which means high angle of insolation. Yes, direct sunlight would also work because remember, direct means a straight hit. So that would be making that 90-degree angle. Number 30. Did you guys know this one? This is not really appropriate for this chapter. Go through the answers, do process of elimination. It's not a bunch of them. Do these arrows show the earth rotating? No. Do they show the ocean currents? The only way to check that is to check out the ocean currents map. Are there ocean currents that hit Florida like that? Like they are hitting Florida here? No. Are these the prevailing northeasterly winds? Remember, you can either look it up or remember their name for where they come from, northeast. Are these coming from the northeast? No. Also, here are those northeast winds. They are going south and curving over this way. So that is not them. Could it be an Atlantic Ocean hurricane? Ever seen maps that show hurricanes? Do they hit Florida like that? Yep. And that is, again, not something that I've very rarely seen the question that looks like this about hurricanes. It is something that process of elimination will get you there, or is the fact that you have hopefully watched one news report in your life about a hurricane and you know that that's where they come from. All right, let's knock the rest of this out. 31, the answer is 4. 32, the answer is 3. And 33, the answer is 2. Should I go over any of those? 33, the tropopause is approximately how far above sea level? Tropopause, because it's not 60. I don't know what I just did. 33. Oh, I wrote it with 60. It's definitely not. I don't know what I did. Right here, that should be 6 miles. That does not say 6 miles. Or let's try that real answer is 12 kilometers. Is that better? Sorry, guys. Even your teacher can make a mistake if they go too fast. It would have been 6 miles, but that said 60. So make sure you read all the numbers, including a 0 after the 6. That really changes the answer up. Sorry about that. Now, any questions on the other two? Okay, 34. Hopefully I got these ones right. 34 is 3, 35 is 2, and 36 is 4. Any of those that we should go over? Where did I get the information for this? Amount of precipitation at these different latitudes. How did I know that that was the correct graph? So hopefully you guys looked at this reference table here that tells you that the equator is wet. That means it gets a lot of rain. So that's why the equator has a high amount of precipitation. Then when you go 1 out to 30 north and 30 south, they're dry. So that's how I know at 30 north and 30 south, they should be dropping lower. Goes back up to wet at 60 south and 60 north. So that's why they're back up to a higher amount of precipitation, and the poles are labeled dry. So that's why they come back down. So use all your reference tables. Questions? And on the back, 37, the answer would have been evaporation. 38, describe condensation. That's when warm air cools, hits its dew point, and water droplets form. 39, I could have taken a lot of different answers. It says, describe one surface condition that would allow runoff to occur. So if runoff's happening, that means water's not soaking in. So I wrote impermeable soil. You could have said things like blacktop or pavement. Saturated soil means it's already filled up. Frozen soil could have also been an answer. And that last one, I'm guessing not a lot of you knew this. Again, it's just one random fact from the reference table. As the lake freezes in the winter, how many calories of heat are released by each gram? There is a reference table on the front page of your packet, your reference table, sorry. And it just flat out says heat released during freezing, 334 joules per gram. It's just a random fact that's on the front of your reference table. By the way, which won't be on the test. Because it's something you need to be able to do. It could be on the Regents. All right, so speaking of the test, I made the test and I got us a review sheet set up. Want to do it together or on your own and then just put the answers up at the end? What do you want to do? How about you guys work for another 15 minutes? You can either work with a friend or work on your own, and then we'll just make sure you have everything correct at the end of the period. Okay, go. Yes. Okay. I don't know where you guys started, but I started here. Factors that affect climate. There should be a few. Give me one. Which part of location? Okay, longitude has nothing to do with it. So latitude, elevation. What else? Okay, yep, nearness to a large body of water. What else? Ocean currents. There's actually 2 more. What are they? It says 4. Okay, well, there's 2 more. What are they? Don't forget wind patterns. Wind direction, wind pattern. That would be your monsoons, your strong seasonal winds. And the other one would be the topography. So that's the whole rain shadow thing, whether it's on the windward or the leeward side of the mountain. How does latitude affect your climate? What about the equator? Okay, so close to equator, what do we know? Yep. Close to the equator is warm. By the way, what are the latitudes close to the equator? Okay, so the lower latitudes. Yeah, the equator is 0, you're right. And what about closer to the poles? Closer to poles equals cold. And there's one more thing. Okay, so I said as latitude increases, I just did an arrow, as latitude increases, temperature range also increases. What that means is when you're near the equator, the difference between the hottest and the coldest days is barely anything. So the temperature range near the equator is super small. The coldest day was what, 86? The hottest day was 91, I think we had from that graph. But as you get farther from the equator, the difference between the coldest days and the hottest days gets higher. At the North Pole, their coldest day was like what? I think it was -2. And their hottest day was 73. So that was a 70-degree difference from winter to summer. So as we get farther from the poles, that range increases. Which, speaking of, what does being near a large body of water do to the temperature range? Yeah. So I just said range decreases. And what you need to remember is when you're near a large body of water, you have warmer winters and cooler summers. So again, instead of having really cold winters and really hot summers, we get slightly warmer winters, slightly cooler summers, so that temperature range decreases. East Australian current, is that a warm or cool ocean current? That one is warm. How about the North Equatorial Current? Everybody knows how to discover if these are warm or cold? Yep, right off of ESRT, page 4. Use the key. How about the Peru Current? Yep. And I would just add a little note. This is on ESRT, page 4. So don't just assume, oh, Peru is a warm place, it must be a warm current. It's not that easy. Yes, the country of Peru is warm, but the Peru current is cool. How about this? The equator has a blank pressure, high or low? How do we know? Low. Low. The equator has a low pressure. How do we know? One reason is it's wet. There's another reason. The arrows are pointing to it. Wind always goes from high to low. So it has a low pressure and a wet or dry climate. Wet. How about 60 north? Also low and wet. How about 30 north? I'm sorry, I switched up to 30 south, but either way, 30 south should be high pressure with a dry climate. Same with 90. It is high and dry. Again, a little note might help. ESRT, page 14. Windward side of the mountain. What do we know about the windward side of the mountain? Usually wet and more what than the leeward side? More cold? Sure. Is more cold? I don't, yeah, I wrote this and now I don't know what I wanted to put there. It's more. I said usually cold and more wet. Yeah, I think that's probably what the way I would have put it originally. As long as you know the windward side is wet and cold. Leeward side, I didn't put a spot to put it, but make sure you know the leeward side is dry and warm. What is evaporation? No, well, it is, but what's the definition? Yep, liquid H2O goes to gas H2O. How about transpiration? Plant sweat. It is officially water entering the atmosphere from plants. Do you guys already write these definitions down? Some of you at least? Okay. Condensation is when gas H2O goes to liquid H2O. Yay. Precipitation is any water falling from the clouds. Snow, hail, sleet, rain. Runoff is water that does not soak into the ground. It flows over the land. And infiltration is water soaking into the ground. Permeability, the ability of water to flow through a material, and permeability rate, how fast that water goes through. So I'll give you guys a couple, maybe a minute here to catch up on these vocab words. All right, we'll come back to this for anybody still writing definitions. What's the definition of porosity? What about the holes? Not how many, but the amount of hole space. It's not, because remember, we can have really big holes and only have a few of them, or have a gazillion holes that are super tiny and they add up to the same, which actually goes right here. How does size affect porosity? It does not. Okay. Do not get that confused with permeability. How does permeability get affected by size of the particles? Okay. Yep. So the larger particles, which I agree with TJ, is bigger holes. Water goes through faster. What are 5 things that will cause an increase in runoff? Somebody besides TJ help me out on this one. Sam. Okay, if the water or the ground is already filled up, which means saturated soil. That's one. Ground already filled up with water. Give me another one. What about slope? Which slope will have more runoff? Steep or gentle will have more run? Steep. Give me another one. Temperature, if the ground is frozen, we'll have more runoff. There's 2 more. What? Weather. Make sure you know what that means by weather. If it's raining faster than the soil, then soaking in. So if it's just downpouring and the soil can't keep up. And the last one would be impermeable soil. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is not. Saturated soil, raining faster than it's soaking in, steeper slope, frozen, or impermeable ground. What are 4 characteristics of the soil that cause the highest infiltration rate? Soaks in fast. Go for one of them. Yes, but I guess I'm going with what causes a lot of porosity. You're right, you're not wrong. Okay, so what do plants do? That's breaks up soil.
Yes.
I guess we should have gone with like loosely packed soil. And yeah, plants will do this. What's another thing that will cause water? So that says that should say loosely packed soil. I like that better. Give me another thing that will cause water to soak in faster. What about the shape? You're right. What shape soaks in faster? Round. What size particles? It does matter. Which one will have the highest infiltration rate? Large. And the last thing is sorted. Which characteristic of the soil causes the greatest capillarity action? Capillarity, just like capillaries. Tiny particles work the best. The smaller the particles, the more capillarity. What will cause the water table to rise? Rain, precipitation. What will cause the water cycle? No, which water cycle process will lower the water table? And? Yeah. Evaporation and transpiration.
Exactly.
If soil has a high permeability, that means water can do what? Water can go through fast. So if it has a high permeability and water can go through it fast, what happens with runoff? No runoff, it'll be lower. How about if the soil has a low permeability, what's going to happen to the water? Water cannot soak in. So if water can't soak in, runoff will be higher. Sure. Guys, this chapter is not overly complicated, but the words sound very similar. Make sure you review the vocab and how size affects it. Your homework from last night was a very good representation of the test.